Chapter 33 Forget about gentle reserve. This man is utterly scandalous. Who would ask something like that on the first night? This is bold, quite bold in fact. Isaac. How outrageously daring of you. His face scrunches in displeasure. His shame must be great indeed for him to display it so. Of course, Ariane, I must apologize for being so very forward, yet I beg you hear me out before you pass a final judgment. My awkward request is dictated by the current circumstances. Well, I admit to being surprised. You do strike me as a man of exquisite manners, so I imagine those circumstances you mentioned must be great for you to breach protocol so. I have never hunted in my whole life. What? What? A vampire that never? Are my ears deceiving me? Surely you were jesting, Isaac. You mentioned being alive in 1756? I refuse. I simply cannot accept that you. That is impossible. Ah, your reaction does not surprise me. On the contrary, it shows you are the best person on the planet to fulfill my request. Isaac. Hunters is what we are. You cannot not hunt. Gah. My companion smiles sadly, and it occurs to me that in my surprise, I have insulted him. Forgive me, Isaac, I meant no disrespect. I assumed you had someone specific in mind? Yes, although I do not know who, or more importantly, how many. What would you ask in return for this service? I know not what you can offer. How about this? Shall you manage to garner enough support to petition house status, and should you commit no atrocities, I will add my personal recommendation to the pile. Although I am not part of the Accords, the reputation of one such as I would be of use to you. I do not know the value of this recommendation. I will only consent to a fair deal. Isaac and I are not friends like I am with Jimena, therefore I owe him no favor but the courtesy of listening. When your petition is heard, your survival shall be made public with all the consequences that entails. When the Lancaster inevitably seek to regain custody over you, they will not be able to invoke your master's agreement with them since you successfully escaped their grasp. However, they shall surely claim that you are a danger to the community and yourself and must be placed under strict control, theirs obviously, as they managed to prevent you from rampaging for 6 months. There will be a trial of sorts during which I shall attest that we met, and that you were polite and composed. Constantine has a rational mind and we have a reputation for impartiality. He will know that both the Lancaster and your allies are biased. We of the Rosenthal bloodline are known for our reliability and impartiality. This will have a major impact on his decision, I assure you. Please do note that if you start slaughtering villages, I will no longer stand at your side. You understand, I am sure. You are offering a conditional, future and intangible reward to an immediate service. I solemnly swear that I believe it to be to your advantage. For anyone else I would refuse. However, a vampire that swears an oath is telling the truth. Isaac does believe it to be to my advantage, and his knowledge of our political system far outstrips mine. I would be wise to take this into consideration. I accept. Excellent. He does not move. So? Who are we killing? I ask with burgeoning impatience. Right, yes. For the past 3 months, women have been disappearing around the city. At least 7 of them. Though it would be difficult to know for sure due to the low social standing of the victims. Normally, I would not be involved, because we operate under strict principles of neutrality, and because my master is particularly insistent on us never fighting. Truly. Yes, this is our tradition, our values. We are meant to be withdrawn from the conflicts of the world and focus on arbitration and preservation. Our power comes from our wealth and alliances. As such, we are encouraged not to draw blades ourselves. That sounds tedious and frustrating. It would be an impossibility for you, Ariane. Your line is not called that of the devourer for nothing. Your extra fangs that allow feeding in the midst of battle are for one thing only, to keep killing, again, and again, until you are the last one standing. Hold on. Hold on. Are you telling me that only we can devour? Indeed. As we are meant to be the depository of knowledge and records through our superior mind, you are made to stand alone against all. It does not seem to be going well for us. That would be because your master cares not about you, unfortunately. In any case, I have not yet managed a hunt from one end to another. Master would disapprove. They do not have to know. Oh, she will. The consortium's mortal employees report to her. Being spied upon by one's own followers. This is absolutely unthinkable. How can he not slay them, unless... he is compelled to follow his master's orders. Should you not be more worried? Listen, I have served the clan faithfully for more than 70 years. I obeyed every order without fault and made major contributions to our success. Now there is a killer on the loose in my territory, and my servants have so far failed to apprehend them. So, I will solve the problem myself. If my master has objections, she can voice them when I return. 13 months from now. Your defiance is admirable, I suppose, though I hope I will not share your punishment, as your accomplice. Ariane, I am sorry there is no pleasant way to put it. You are not important enough to warrant her attention. Well, that is humbling. Now that I am finally reconnected with other vampires, I am reminded that I am but a discarded ex-fledgling in a frontier region with no connections and no power. Perhaps living isolated for so long has made me forget where I currently stand in the knight's pecking order. I find myself wanting to remedy that at some point in the future. I will not stay at the bottom. I refuse. Very well. Now, as I mentioned, the latest disappearance happened at nightfall. If we hurry, we may be able to gather clues from the crime scene. Clues? Crime scene? I am not sure I follow. We shall inspect where the victim disappeared and infer the nature and identity of the culprit from things he may have left behind. Oh, I believe I understand. You are taking a scientific and methodical approach to crime solving. Yes? Indeed. You do not? No. This must be necessary in big cities, but is superfluous in smaller communities. If the town you live in has 200 inhabitants, the list of potential lawbreakers is extremely short. It is either one of the handful of troublemakers or a traveler passing by. A quick interrogation is normally enough to clear any doubts. Ah, naturally, yes, naturally. I hope it will be that easy this time. Let us depart promptly. Shadowed by Dalton, we arrive in the poorer area of Savannah 15 minutes later. The houses there grow like uneven teeth. Some are barely bigger than shocks. The smell of humans and their refuse is mitigated by the cold, though not much. Behind that I also smell wood smoke, soap and food. We walk to a small home, barely more than one room under the scrutiny of all those we come across. Our clean appearance and wealthy clothes set us apart at a time of suspicion. This is not right. We are meant to stand out like roses in a sea of grass, not like sore thumbs. The whole process makes me uncomfortable, and only the urgency of our task prevents me from asking Isaac for the opportunity to get changed. We stop in front of an edifice of unpainted and unadorned wood and stone no different from the others around it. The sickly browns and grays of what passes as architecture here is so dreary that I believe putting the entire district to the torch would only improve its appearance. My companion knocks. Inside, I can hear 3 beating hearts belonging to 2 children and a crying woman. Perhaps we can hear what they have to say? Go to hell. Well, we're off to an auspicious start. Excuse me, madam, we are here about the missing woman. I say in a calming voice. I hear a brief inhale, then heavy footsteps until the door opens with a bang. Who the fuck are you? I give her my best disarming smile and extend the courtesy of not tearing out her throat for provoking me. She is, after all, grieving. This is Isaac Rosenthal, a concerned citizen, and Colonel Dalton, the best bounty hunter in Georgia. I understand that there is a person missing? I ask as I capture the woman with my eyes. I likely push despair at the forefront. She's gone. Nobody believes me, nobody. The coppers say she is just a whore turning tricks somewhere else, but I know her. She said she would be home, and she's always where she is supposed to be, and the room was a mess, and... What? I slightly pull the woman forward and pat her head. Her hair is dry and coarse under my touch, but she smells clean. I comfort her for a while and ask her to invite us in. We follow her into the single room. The place speaks to me of dignity in the face of adversity. The white plastered walls are bare, the furniture all cobbled together from rough wood, some of it falling apart. What pots can be found are chipped, and in the middle of it all stands a bed in a state of disarray. I can now tell for sure that the disappeared woman was indeed turning tricks, as the smell of tobacco and stale sex is unmistakable. I seat the woman in a rickety chair under the worried gazes of two young children, a boy and a girl. They have the lost expression of those who know that something tragic has occurred, yet do not understand the implications. Are they here for Mama? I was mistaken, they do understand. Yes, we are. Now go sit on the bed while I talk to my new friend here. I add with a hint of suggestion. I am bound to find the victim. That does not mean I have to suffer the presence and constant nagging of her spawn. Now tell us what happened. While our host babbles, I steal a look towards Isaac, and I immediately understand how he could maintain his sanity all those years. His very mind is predatory. Dalton looks aloof, taking in a few details but generally acting as a sentinel. By comparison, my kin is like a bloodhound. His gaze shifts from one element to another with absolute concentration, noting every detail and cataloging them before switching to the next with a logic that only he can follow. No one here exists. He is in a world of his own where his intellect peels apart and dissects every bit of detail, every information his mind can capture. It appears my role has been decided. I shall calm the mortal down while he does his thing. I find the thread of hope in the woman and pull it. Immediately, her tears dry and she tells me her tale. I make sure that she keeps her eyes on me. My host's name is Suzanne and her sister is, or was called Christine. She lived alone with her two children and survived mostly through odd jobs. I also learned that it was common for her to place them under her siblings' care while she was practicing the world's most ancient profession for a few more coins. When Suzanne returned today, she found the house empty and partially damaged. She knew immediately that something had gone wrong, but the neighbors had heard nothing out of the ordinary and seen no unusually suspicious people. The nearby road lies between warehouses and the docks after all, and traffic is heavy even late. When she finishes, she glares at me as if daring to comment. I understand why she is defensive. Her sister is a cheap prostitute and a scullery maid. She sits at the bottom of a vertiginous social order and there is no reason for us to care, at all. I find that I care, as much as I care about any other mortal. Those people are on the food chain just like the landowners, the soldiers, and everyone else, and just like everyone else they have their place, beneath me. They have value in what they can bring me and I shall not discard anyone solely because of their social standing. That is their intrinsic value and it does not even take into consideration the circumstances. That woman was not killed, she was abducted. Nobody died here, at least recently, and I know why she was selected. Somebody went through the trouble of abducting a woman from her home. It is a risky endeavor even with meticulous planning. It speaks of means, will, and some measure of competence. I would be curious as to what motivated this decision. As to why Christine in particular, it is obvious. She was extremely vulnerable, an outlaw in the most literal sense of the word, someone who the law no longer protects. I would bet good money that the majority of the other victims share similarity. If one day I must build myself a nest, those are the people I will recruit. Not the posh nobles out for some thrill or the influential merchants, but the outcasts and the fringe members who life has not broken yet. For what they lack in power and influence, they make up in tenacity and scorn. Even now the defiances Suzanne's eyes will not be extinguished. They are survivors, like me. I can buy influence and I can influence money. Nothing will replace that sheer will to live. Completely oblivious to the situation, Isaac suddenly walks up to a curtain and draws it to reveal a back door. He barely pauses before opening it and stepping outside. Not one for pleasantries, I see. Our host certainly looks a bit out of sort at such a cavalier attitude. Well, time to go. I stand up to leave, Dalton in tow. We shall look for her and return to you when we have news. But, wait. Stay here and take care of your niece and nephew, yes? Yes. Yes, of course. Outside, My fellow vampire has crossed a vegetable patch and kneels in front of a path, barely more than a mud trail. A stone wall, refuse, and stacks of firewood block the view in every direction. Wordlessly, Isaac stands and follows it back towards the warehouse district. We are following a carriage. Yes, mistress, there was no indication that the entry was forced, so she let them in. It would have been risky to exit a well-frequented street with a wrapped body, however, so they probably dragged her out of the back door. They? I look at the ground, and indeed, besides our footsteps I count 3 more. One of them is very well defined, which hints at quality boots. It is unfortunate that the abductee would let man in without too much fuss as a matter of habit. The kidnappers chose their victim well. Isaac, should we not ask the neighbors what they saw? No need, I know more than enough. The woman was neutralized quickly by 3 men she allowed to enter, then taken out the back and placed in a covered carriage of small size. Quite confident about the details, are we? I shall see if it is warranted. I expected us to lose the tracks, this being a busy place, however I was mistaken. The kidnapping was only a few hours ago and it is quite late, so only light traffic was in the street. The distinctive marks have not been entirely erased yet. We search for an hour. When the tracks are covered, such as in the middle of a busy intersection, Isaac simply inspects every possible exit road until he finds the trail again. Sometimes, men with hungry eyes follow the richly dressed and distracted passerby until a look from Dalton dissuades them. He has grown and filled out quite a bit in the past 6 months thanks to regular meals, and the glint of a pistol's handle makes for a compelling argument. Eventually, our guide leads us to a more remote part of the docks. It is perfectly silent at this time of the night, and I am reminded of when I cleared the warehouse as a first task for Bowdoin. I assume that just like then, this area is worked by people who know better than to ask questions. Isaac is inspecting a puzzling set of interlocking tracks when I decide to intervene. I lightly touch his shoulder and he turns around, frustrated. Silently, I tap my nose. He breathes in and his eyes widen in understanding. It smells like tobacco, more specifically of the same quality as the one we were subjected to while in the hovel. This time, however, it is still burning. We follow it to its source. We know we reached our destination when we walk past the city guard in uniform. Red embers from a cigar illuminate his sallow face, and his eyes follow us until we leave his sight. There is no discernible reason for this man to guard a private property, alone, at this time of the night. So that is how the kidnappers managed to access Christine's dwelling without a fuss. Not everyone would trust an officer of the law, but few would openly defy one. That is especially true for vulnerable people, like those that were taken. He must have demanded that the door be opened to them, and they thought better than to cause a commotion. Here, their respective justice and its agents were used as a tool by criminals. Truly, fate can be ironic. We know how and what, now is the time to learn why. I see 2 possibilities. Either they were abducted for the pleasure of a monster wearing human skin, in which case the hunt shall end here, or they were taken to be sold or used elsewhere. Breaking in silently will grant us the most options. I push the men in a side street. I first turn to Dalton. After working together on quite a few bounties, we have developed a way to communicate by gestures that I am rather proud of. I sign the message slowly and deliberately. Isaac, I, up, hunt, kill, you, go, sentinel, silent, warn, incoming. His answer is prompt. Condition, enemy, come, kill, silent, agreement? I nod in affirmation. He can eliminate incoming threats at his discretion. I trust him. With this, Dalton leaves like a shadow and I take a moment to appreciate his skill. After he turns the corner, I climb the wooden walls of the nearest building and stride across the roofs, Isaac in tow. Who is that man to you? I turn with no small amount of curiosity. Can't he not tell? That is my vassal. Impressive. Vassals are the first step towards the creation of a true human servant. You were fortunate to have found one so soon, and powerful for binding him so early in your new life. I admit that your master's acumen in selecting candidates is as good as they say. I frown in anger. Of course the master was right to choose Emmy. Wait, No, what does he mean? Have I been insulted? Please, I meant it as a compliment. You see, most clans are so focused on turning those that are the best soldiers, artists and bankers that they forget to turn those that will be the best vampires. What? Forgive me, I am getting distracted. Onto the matter at hand. I doubt that his bloodline wants for attention span. Either my status is more interesting than finishing the hunter he was delaying. No matter. We jump across the narrow ledge separating us from our target. I kneel, close my eyes and focus. Under the creak and groans of wood and the various sounds of the night, there are 3 heartbeats. It is too difficult for me to discern at this time if the victim is one of them. I need more practice. The advantage of hunting with a fellow vampire is that I do not need signs. I can whisper and his acute hearing will pick it up while the mortals are none the wiser. 3 inside. Shall we take out the officer first? Only if we have no choice. A strange decision. I do not understand his logic. Why make things complicated? We should just locate the women and kill those that infringe on his territory. Anything else is just. Bah, enough. I agreed to help him. My word is given. At least avoiding the policeman's attention should offer some measure of challenge and make the hunt interesting. I am an old hand at breaking into warehouses, sadly. The first step is always to scout it. I walk to the back and lower myself in front of a filthy window. I manage to glimpse the interior through the stained glass. 3 men are playing cards under the light of a lantern. They are sitting around a table in the center of a mezzanine overlooking the ground floor. On the far end, just above the main entrance, I spot a small office. It is barely more than a cage, but it should suffice. I hoist myself back up and invite Isaac to follow. After stopping in front of the office window, I drop down and hang in front of it with my feet in the air and one clawed hand firmly planted into the wool's wood. Then, I close my eyes. The noises of the game come into focus. A few hands are played in relative silence until one gets especially heated. As a triumphal ha! Echoes in the room, I dig my claw in the frame. My finger pushes through cleanly. It hurts a little. I wait in silence as they continue. I remain so far unnoticed. I slowly lift the lock with my finger and take it out. I then place 4 claws under the lower rail. I wait until the next commotion to lift the entire stile. This time, the noise was not entirely covered. Did you hear something? No? I still go to the roof as a measure of precaution. A few seconds later, it is not the players but the police officer who comes to check the source of the disturbance. I was heard from the outside. Fortunately, it is too dark for him to notice that the window is still open. After a perfunctory examination, he leaves. I admit that this is fun. My foes may be no match for me in a straight fight, but to outwit and outmaneuver them so completely is gratifying. Perhaps Isaac did the right thing after all. As soon as the coast is clear, I quietly slide into the office. The game of cards is resumed, though it is more subdued now. I climb over a desk and down to the dusty ground to find that the room is cluttered with a strange hoard of everyday items including tools, ropes, pots and even a toy horse. Someone managed to create a path to the door. Isaac slides in behind me and his eyes latch on the pile of papers in front of him. Before he can get too absorbed, I whisper. Should we not interrogate them? The woman is not here. It would be too noisy. Besides, I can get all the answers I need from here, he answers dismissively. Did you, or did you not come here to hunt? I hiss quietly. If you can make them talk without alerting the whole quarter with a commotion, be my guest. He then turns and starts sorting and arranging the documents, completely absorbed in his task. Very well then, you insufferable bookworm. Scared of his true self. Waste of essence. Yet I gave my word, so he remains in charge. He did, however, challenge me. The walls of the room are nothing but a small separation. They do not even raise all the way to the rafters. What was a handicap when trying to break him discreetly has become an advantage. I jump to a wooden beam and grab it with both talons and knees, then follow it out of the enclosed space. I am now hanging upside down and moving slowly towards the small group. Blood does not rush to my head, making the position strangely relaxing. Now to choose. The dominant male is a cruel-looking giant of a man with a respectable pile of coins in front of him. His clothes are grubby and there is something insane about his smile. The two others are wary of him in the typical way of people expecting violence. The second man is dressed as a docker and shows the stigmata of unfortunate souls whose mothers drank heavily during pregnancy. The last man is quite promising. He is a Weasley fellow wearing a respectable but ill-fitting suit. His legs are locked around his stool in a death grip. I can also spot dirty and decrepit shoes. Perfect. This one is the archetype of the cowardly social climber. He will squeal the most and will likely have observed more than he should have. I reach the edge of the meager circle of light, then fish a coin from my pocket. I throw it at a copper plate placed against the wall. The coin lands with a small clang as I am already dropping on the ground. The three men turn their heads away from me. I move. My left hand closes around the docker's neck and shatters it as my right lightly punches the weasel's throat. I jump across the table and dig my index in the brute's breastbone. The pain steals his breath. I grab his shoulder and somersault over his head, grab it and bite deep with all 8 fangs. I devour the man's life force. I am not feeding, I am making a point. All the while, my eyes are on the weasel gripping his throat and struggling to take a deep breath. He stares at me with unmitigated terror as his bladder empties under him. I drop the lifeless body. Between my toss and now, less than 4 seconds have passed. I walk to the weasel with the grace of an immortal predator and lean before him with a red-tinged smile. I am close enough that my breath makes him flinch. He desperately crosses the air in front of him with a trembling arm in a pathetic attempt to ward me off. My smile only grows wider. It is a bit late to try and convert. I have some questions. You will answer me, yes? He nods frantically, still trying to catch his breath. Rivers of tears fall down his grimy face and from his throat comes a weird keening. Good. I grab him and drag his mewling form up. You are the ones who took the woman tonight. Nod. And the other women before? Nod. Were they taken here first? Nod. Do you know where tonight's woman was taken? Nod. Were all of them taken to the same place? He shakes his head. I walk back to the office and open the door. Isaac has classified and reordered all the books and free papers and is in the process of organizing them, apparently. When I reach him, he turns around and whispers excitedly. Ah, you are back. I have found some fascinating tidbits of. Oh. Isaac takes in my captive, still hanging from my hand. He is turning a delicate shade of purple. The others. I smile. He looks a tad uncomfortable. Yes, this is what a true hunt looks like. Paper does not bleed, weakling. Tell him where you took the girl, little man. The Frederickson estate. He manages to croak. Good. Good. That is consistent with what I found so far. If you just let me. Enough of this, Isaac. If you want to find the girl before they move her, we need to act now. Hold on, I just discovered a large illegal human traffic ring. There is. That is not our agreement. You asked me to help you kill the one responsible for tonight's abduction, not to overturn an entire conspiracy. This is far more important. Are you changing the terms of our agreement, Isaac? I ask with a deceptively soft voice. He is about to raise his voice but something in my countenance must have warned him. He pauses instead, then admits with no small amount of reluctance, I am not, and my current behavior is defeating the purpose of this whole exercise. He sighs. Let us go, then. Excellent. Do you mind? I ask as I point to our captive. Not at all. He gathers a notebook and a few of the papers under his arm and leaves. Hold on, disposing of the bodies is part of my attributions now? This little escapade is proving to be increasingly frustrating. Oh well, at least I will face the night with my belly full. Chapter 34 I managed to convince Isaac to grant me enough time to get changed before our assault on the Frederickson estate. I have cobwebs on my nice blue dress just because of that stunt on the beam. If possible, I would rather avoid bloodstains as well. Cobwebs can at least be brushed away. I decide against taking my rifle. It is useful but unwieldy, and thus unsuitable for infiltration. The sad truth is that I have difficulties moving around when burdened with it. I would sometimes crawl forward and forget its very presence, only for the barrel to clang against a door frame. Embarrassing. Perhaps I just need more practice. Nothing will make me forfeit my pistol, however. I am a woman of elegance, refinement, and black powder. Try and stop me. Our carriage arrives at the previously agreed meeting point. As I exit, Isaac comes out from behind the shadow of a tree. We are now at the western edge of Savannah, and even the most miserable hovels are giving way to barren fields. The chill in the air is biting and Dalton's breath shows in small icy clouds. The vampire's eyes widen when he sees my outfit. Loth and I worked on it for more than 30 hours and it shows. It is a dress, black as night. No parties will it see, nor dance nor revels. It is a tool of death, an instrument of the hunt, and a statement. It is enough to glance at it to know that its wearer has not come to parley. It is mine and I love it. The outfit covers me snugly from neck to foot. Light metal scales held by silk threads cover most of my torso, arms, and legs. My heart is protected by a fully integrated Hastings-designed chest armor, while bracers of dull steel go over my forearms, strong enough to stop a blade. There are also holsters for my blade, throwing knives and a pistol. Dark boots and a skirt complete the ensemble, although the skirt is just me not feeling comfortable wearing man trousers. The cloth is snug so that when I move, there is no sound of fabric flapping in the air to betray my presence. It was designed and created for me. I walk to Isaac just as Dalton takes out a monstrosity of a crossbow, another one of Loth's creation. My vassal has taken a liking to the ungodly contraption. It might be slow, but it is silent and the draw strength is terrifying. It was designed to kill werewolves, after all. Greetings, HRM, Ariane, the HRM estate. Just that way. Over the hill. I should add distracting to the list of the armor's quality. Perhaps it is just a bit too close-fitting? Particularly, around the bottom. Surely not. Leaving those considerations behind for the moment, I look up to our destination. There is nothing to see, just an empty field going up. The road continues away to our right, and to our left, a small copse of trees hides the carriage. It appears that Isaac expects me to lead and so I do. I walk a bit to the side until we find a path. I do not intend to walk through the actual field. Vampire or no, I would end up with enough cake mud under my soles to start my own plantation. We follow the path in silence, and I keep my ears open for trouble. Soon, the edge of the estate comes into view. Now, I admit to being a commoner. I even admit that the glorified peasant insult I heard from Lady Moore hit a tad too close to home, so I am not the best one to judge other people's properties. With that said, if this qualifies as an estate, then I am the Queen of Spain. This is a decrepit farm, nothing more. Isaac seems to share my concerns. Is this really the place? Undoubtedly, I answer and point forward. The farm is surrounded by stone walls that go around and along the buildings. I see a house, servant quarters and a barn through a pair of open gates. There is some activity in the courtyard, and I can spot the distinctive glow of lanterns. Could they simply not be doing peasant things? Really? Really? In the middle of the night? I hiss, in February. And they need guards for this? I add as I point to a pair of sentinels around the door. I suppose not. This man has been sheltered beyond belief. I assure you, they are the right people. Now, before we proceed, are we in agreement that everyone here needs to die? I would prefer to capture a few so that I may interrogate them at a later time. I grab my temporary employer's shoulder before I lose the last remnants of my temper. I stare him in the eyes, all the while trying to formulate a message that will not be perceived as unnecessarily rude. No need for formalities, Ariane. Speak your mind. Very well. You requested that I offer support while you eliminate your foe, now foes, with the clear purpose of protecting your territory. Those are the terms of our arrangement, sir. What happened instead is that I killed your opponents and extracted a location from our prisoners. I assumed that you needed a little nudge and I was, obviously, mistaken. You will assault this farm. You will kill its inhabitants and reclaim your place as its apex predator, and I shall only step in if you find yourself in danger. Only then will you have experienced a true hunt. If I do everything for you, what was the point in coming? Yes, you are correct. Why are you reluctant to kill? Is this not one of the easiest things for us? As a group, I suppose, he replies with a hint of impatience. The issue is that I was trained not to do it. We Rosenthal learn how to dodge, avoid and flee because any conflict we get stuck in is one we should not have been involved in to begin with. Then it is time to rely less on your training and more on your instinct, is it not? Look at those men, look at them. Isaac turns to the pair of grumpy guards. They are complaining in low voices about their assignment and the cruel treatment the weather is inflicting on their gonades. Do you know what they are missing? Isaac frowns and looks them up and down. I can imagine him going through a checklist of what he expects a member of a kidnapping ring should have. I sigh. Fear. Isaac, they do not know fear. They are here on your territory in the dead of night, and they know no fear. They even have lights up and strut around noisily because they are not even afraid of the militia, and why should they? How many of them are in their pockets? They have been poaching from you with impunity for who knows how long. Like rats. Does they not irk you? Is this how things should be? No. You do not need training to tear necks and crush bones, you just need to do what feels right. Yes? Yes. Then show me. He slips into the shadows and moves around to approach the sentinel from the side. I watch him with a bit of concern, soon proven to be unwarranted. He remains quiet. The only issue I ever had with my instincts was that I tend to overestimate myself when I, let us say, succumb to them. Isaac's predicament is beyond comprehension. What manner of vampire fears his own power? I can only presume that I am missing a vital element that would let me understand. I return my attention to the present. Isaac is moving along the walls and will strike shortly. I signal Dalton and whisper in his ear. Go around to the front gate. Kill all who escape. He taps my hand in understanding and leaves. Working for Isaac only increased my appreciation for the faithful vessel. He is not only competent. He is also obedient and proactive. The valiant companions would have been a force to reckon with if he had been a part of their leadership. Their loss, my win. I keep looking as Isaac uses a lull in conversation to grab the first sentinel and smash him backward into the wall. Disappointing. Of course, the second sentinel hears the impact and turns around. The outlaw and the vampire face each other. And stop. Come on. Do something. I walk forward and grab a throwing dagger. I would prefer if the alarm were not raised. If we get spotted too early, it might turn into a chore to chase everyone, not to mention entering the house if anybody calls it their home. Just as the sentinel raises his musket in alarm, Isaac jumps. I recognize that move. I first used it by instinct in the Henley residence, back in New Orleans. It is a great opener and finisher. The vampire's claws dig into the man's chest, stealing his breath forever. Blood erupts in a geyser and paints my companion's face crimson. I do not understand. He could have avoided this easily. He slowly passes his hand over his face, as if to clean it. A fruitless endeavor as they are both covered by the crimson liquid. He stares at his drenched hands. His eyes narrow, considering. He licks his lips. He raises his face to me and for an instant, I see a drop of baleful purple reflected in his tame brown, and then he is gone. I rush to the wall and jump on it. The courtyard is mostly empty but for a few crates. The doors of the barn are wide open and a small cart with a narrow frame is parked in front of it. A few lanterns scattered around allow limited vision to the mortals. A horse neighs in fear. I hear the sound of torn flesh and exclamation of surprise and dismay. My ally is savaging a downed man under the shocked look of a handful of other humans. I cannot see his face from here. I should what? Why would I stop him? Because we need at least one prisoner in case an invitation is required. Curses. I jump down as the first musket is fired. Isaac is hit and that seems to stop his frenzy. He turns to the offender and moves, crushes his throat with a hand before throwing the corpse at another man. His movements are quick and savage but utterly inefficient. He spends far too much time on each victim and would have risked being overwhelmed if his enemies had been trained and equipped to stop him. I find myself disappointed again. I would have loved to see another one of my kind in action against someone other than me, for a change. This performance is rather lackluster. One of our opponents has the presence of mind to jump on the nearest horse to flee as his associates are slaughtered by the strangely resilient madman in their midst. He rushes to the front door and something must have reflected just right because he turns to me and our eyes meet. I smile lightly and point forward. He turns around just in time for a quarrel to appear in his mount's chest. They collapse in a heap. A magnificent shot, as always. Now I just need to select one of the survivors. Ah, it appears that it will not be necessary. The front door of the house is banged open by a veritable mountain of a man in dirty coveralls. From here I can smell the stench of alcohol and old sweat, a revolting mix that speaks of decadence and neglect. He carries in his hand a large butcher knife covered with old blood, some of it human. Behind him comes the leader of this place. I know authority when I see it. The ringleader is dressed in a conservative gray suit that would not be out of place in a courtroom. His dark eyes sweep the courtyard without a hint of care for the fallen. He is not worried in the slightest, only angry that someone would dare assault his operation. Both men notice me at the same time. The tall one smiles with a most dreadful expression, while the leader only shows cold disdain. A woman. Very astute, sir, I commend you on your keen sense of observation. They both frown. Ah yes, it is difficult to reconcile me with what they know of the world. In it, I should be cowering in fear like all the vulnerable people they kidnap from their home. Get her, says the leader with a bored voice. I let the tall man approach me. The ugly smirk on his face would have had me worried 2 years ago. I am no longer the Tyrian. His grubby paw reaches to grab my shoulder. I quickly stab his arm and dance away, ripping his artery open lengthwise. He recoils in pain and surprise. I do not understand his astonishment. I did not move, did not show fear. Did he truly expect me to stay there and wait for the cruel treatment his countenance promised? You bitch. He advances with fury while his hands try to stem the flow of blood. I step back. This is my favorite moment. Fury turns to concern when he sees the puddle of blood that already escaped his doomed body, then to genuine fear and then to panic. He ties a filthy handkerchief around the gaping wound as if it could stem the tide. Boss, help me. The boss grinds his teeth in frustration and takes out a gun. He does not even spare a look for his poor subordinate. Ah, a true monster in human skin with no empathy and no honor. I shall enjoy toying with him. The brute falls on his knees as the other man passes him by. He is white as a sheet while the earth under him turns a beautiful shade of carmine. For an instant, I take in the beauty of the moment. The red, the black and the white highlights. Life and death intertwined for one fleeting moment. A wonderful trio of a dying man, one walking to his death and a woman who had died and came back, each a victim of a fate beyond their knowledge and control. I sometimes miss the daylight, but times such as those make it all worthwhile. The second man reaches me and the painting fades. With a sneer, he lifts a pistol and shoots me in the face. Or at least, tries to. How very forward, and quite rude besides. Why, these Savannah people certainly are a brazen bunch. I move my entire torso to the side as he pulls the trigger and the smoke ignites. There is no need for me to dodge the projectile, just the man's aim. The bullet skims past my left ear like an angry hornet. Ow. Ow ow ow. So loud. This is quite painful. Why do I not have this issue on our house's firing range? Is it because this time I'm on the receiving end? Gah. I force myself to keep smiling even though I want to rip his throat open. I just wanted to appreciate a little memento mori instant in peace. Is it too much to ask? Bah, I cannot kill him. Really, it is forbidden by my agreement with Isaac. The cold man in front of me shows a bit of wariness for the first time since we met. Fascinating. Seeing his man dead or dying should have clued him in, and yet it takes his own failure to realize his predicament? Hubris. The failings of a man used to seeing talent in himself only. You have no idea who you're messing with. You and your friends are already dead. Unless. The boss scowls in frustration. Somewhere behind us, a man begs for his life. Go on. You were going to finish your sentence with something, no? You will all die unless you let me go. If you leave I will only ask for reparation. My many powerful friends will destroy you and your families. To continue, I think I've heard most variations of the classics, but sometimes, someone still manages to surprise me. I will teach you respect, whore. Boring. Oh well. The man unsheathes a rapier from an ornate scabbard and lunges immediately. I take a simple step back to avoid the tip of the blade while grabbing my own and swipe up to deflect a follow-up that does not come. After his attack failed to hit, the man simply fell back and now circles me warily. You know, you might be decently trained but you lack real-world experience. Shut up. I dodge 2 more lunges, then bat the third to the side. Instead of using his superior reach to his advantage, he stops again. Another mistake. Shooting the head is good in a competition. Soldiers know better and aim for the center mass, less chance of missing, that way, and the target is just as disabled, not that it would have helped you. I said, shut up. You wench. I'll have you entertain the whole barrack. So only 3 men, no, 2 now. This man is trained to fight in a fencing room, so I simply move more across the battlefield. He tries to follow as I dodge and weave around crates and bodies. You're too focused on me, keep an eye on your surroundings. You slut. Once I get my hands on you, your friends will let me go and then I'm coming after all of you. You don't know who you're fucking with. I smile. Typical. Watch the leg, I warn as I parry. The rapier slides on him in his gift above my head as I move forward and down. He jumps back in reflex and stumbles against the extended limb of one of his fallen comrades. I did not mean yours. Ah, this has been a disappointment. Crow was much more entertaining than you, puppet. Perhaps I should have offered a wager? This isn't over. If you look left, you will see that it is. The man cannot resist. His eyes flicker to the left just as Isaac smashes into him from the right. Oops. I lied, I say, then I stop. Something is wrong. Isaac's posture has devolved. He is hunched like a beast and his snarls and disorderly strikes send plumes of crimson into the air as he slashes ineffectively. His clothes are in tatters and the cold and orderly aura I associate with him has turned sour. Just like the vampire in the wood at the Tillerson estate. Bloody hell. I move forward, grab Isaac by the shoulder and push him away from his mewling victim. He rolls and faces me. I see no sign of intelligence in his brown eyes. His entire face is coated with blood. Ooh, this is bad. That is enough, get a hold of yourself. Mine. He growls in answer. He hisses and I do the same. Trying to assert dominance? Weakling. Not even able to control himself. Worthless. I will put him in his place. And non-lethally. I may not warrant the attention of Clan Rosenthal now, but should I slay one of its scions I certainly will. Briefly. He lunges and I move and duck. As he glides above me, I stab his solar plexus with 5 talons to stop his momentum. Then I slam him on his back. I aim for his heart and he grabs my wrist in panic. My other hand is already reaching up. I lift him and as his body leaves the ground, I find the opening I need. 2 claws dig mercilessly into the back of his neck. He stops moving. Isaac, look at me. He growls softly and shows me fangs. Defiance? You cannot effort defiance. 2 spikes of black chitin pierce the bone of his spine. He whimpers. Isaac. Look at me. Isaac. Yes. I am Isaac. He closes his eyes in meditation and slowly, his body relaxes. The cold aura slowly loses its sour note until nothing is left but perfectly ordered strands. I haven't moved, and I still do not move when he looks at me, nor when his hand grabs the one I left resting on his chest. The intimacy of the moment gives me a peculiar feeling, though I am not afraid. I made him submit. For tonight, our hierarchy is clear. Thank you, I would like to stand up now. I drag him up. He looks beyond exhausted, even while his skin is smooth and his eyes clear. It is a fatigue of the mind and of the soul. How do you do it? What? How do you keep it at bay, the great beast, the one that needs to dominate and destroy? I tried so hard to hear it through my conditioning that when I succeeded, there were only screams in my head. Nothing mattered but to terrify and slay the mortals. It wanted more and more. Your voice is the only one that could pierce the veil, make it go quiet. You just remind yourself of what your purpose is. The violent part of us lacks self-preservation. It needs to be tempered. Is it? He chuckles madly. Is it really a part of me? That thing that only craves death and subjugation? How do you live with it, Ariane? How do you live with its constant whispers? There are no whispers. There has never been anyone in my head but myself. This is not some mysterious evil entity, Isaac, just a part of you that needs to be controlled so that it can be used as one more tool in your arsenal. I have always been me. It has always been a part of me, nothing more and nothing less. My companion looks mortified as if I had just condemned him to death. What about him? I point to the fallen leader to change the topic. Did you not want to question him? I have an inkling as to what his business model is like. I do not feel like saving his life just to end it later. You should drain him then, bring tonight's hunt to a proper end. I cannot, He throws up. Black, disgusting liquid with not a shred of essence spills on the muddy ground. I step back so it does not stain my boots. I cannot. Isaac stands straight and wipes his mouth with a dirty handkerchief. He takes a deep breath and addresses me with impressive solemnity. Ariane of Clan Mirari, Isaac of Clan Rosenthal, declare your contract fulfilled. As a token of my appreciation, I offer you the prize of the hunt. Magic washes over me, reminding me of my deal with Loth. This is the power of the oath, and in this case, of a promise fulfilled. A wave of pleasure creeps up my spine with the purity and certainty of things made right. I smoothly go to the pitiful head of this defunct operation, brought low in a single night. I ignore his babbles and empty promises as I hoist him up. I disregard his cries of fear and pain as I bite deep. I feed. Yes, even in the relative serenity of my mind's fortress I can feel the power rushing into me along with the vitality of the vanquished. I can feel Isaac's presence at my side, waiting respectfully until I am done. It is empowering, flattering, and just a little arousing. I hope his nose is saturated by the stench of blood. When I am done, I throw the body away. I must leave now, Ariane. There is much for me to consider, and I feel unusually tired. I will handle the cleanup, do not worry. I nod. He pauses briefly to consider something in silence. You really are good at this, you know? Being a vampire. Some of us lose ourselves to our instincts. Somehow, I figure this will never be a risk for you. Seeing you fight so naturally has been enlightening. I thank you and wish you all the best. Do right when you have the time. I nod again and he departs without a look back. When I am convinced that he is out of sight, I finally relax. That was so fun. Damn it, I'm drunk again. Chapter 35. Following our heroic return from opening a bank account and killing 6 people in the process, Dalton and I continue much like before. As a charming lad with good prospects and a secured income, Dalton starts receiving several discreet inquiries from good families to see if their daughters could be a match. He systematically turns them down. This only gives wind to the rumor mill. Now everyone says we are an item. Fortunately, we are protected by our good reputation and we are therefore seen more as an exotic pair than a couple of sinners. This leads me to consider a relationship with him. I am certain that he would not hesitate. I am also certain that our lovemaking would be pleasant and concern-free, and yet, I decide against it. Although I cannot reclaim what Master took, what I give is still mine to choose, and I want my first consensual intimate moment to be like what Agna and Loth shared. I do not want to indulge. I want what they had. My feelings for Dalton are not that of a lover, and so we cannot have what I desire. In the meanwhile, I, still have a way to entertain myself. While I wait for the conclave and for Jimena to submit my petition, I am not idle. My present circumstances give me access to a wealth of resources to work with. Following Jimena's recommendation on the pursuit of art, I am taking drawing classes. Well, that is not entirely correct. Upon Jimena's recommendation, I have picked up drawing. It is upon Loth's recommendation that I am taking classes for it, under the benevolent mentoring of old Margie Mitchell. What occurred, is that after a brief period of self-study, I showed Loth the fruit of my labor. He was not impressed. His very words were, "Don't ye worry about your lack of talent, lass, ye got centuries to learn. Now explain to me how ye think that's a house." Please, I could use another laugh. Rascal. Fortunately, my other pursuits are going better. My study of magic runes and their arrangement has progressed enough that Loth started showing how to build, avoid, and disarm magical protections and alarms. It will at least allow me to know what things can do, and then, break them. Casting even the most basic ward is still completely beyond me. When I ask how he knows so much about breaking and entering, Loth grows suspiciously evasive. He mentions something about a girl, a crown, and his good cousin Okrai. I leave it at that. Bounty hunting has become interesting. There is a new market for escaped slaves, and after learning of it, Loth offered me a trade. I would hunt down the fugitives, and instead of delivering them back to their owner, I would lead them to isolated houses or lost paths, where others would take them. Loth explained that he was part of a secret network called the Underground Railroad dedicated to helping slaves travel north towards Canada or west to Mexico. Ah, Loth, always the bleeding heart. The rest of the bounties are the usual conmen, thieves, murderers, and rapists. Which leads me to tonight. May 1805, Georgian Wilderness. That's them, mistress. Dalton points to a small gathering of people off what passes as roads in these parts. I see 3 wagons and 3 groups around one campfire. They unfortunately have a dog. I study them. There is a couple of young farmers, probably married since the woman is heavily pregnant. I also note a larger family with many children being fed by a heavy-set woman while her husband smokes a pipe. He is dressed in the black attire of a preacher. The last 2 members are a crone in a rocking chair attended by a woman with the absent face of a simpleton. None of them look to be Mr. Darius Hill, charlatan, and thug. I like charlatans, they always have the best stories. And you say none of them saw your quarry? I ask. Or so they claim, and they seemed honest. The thing is, it should be impossible. Hill followed the same path, and nobody remembered him in Salt Spring. Unless he went off-road before he came across this group, they should have seen something. I keep looking. I don't think they saw anything. They are traveling together for safety, but there is no friendship here. If anything, the young couple and the simpleton are both wary of the preacher. He probably bashed their ears with threats of divine punishment during the whole trip. There would be no reason for a coordinated lie. It looks like a trek through the wilderness is increasingly more likely, though that does not fit what I know of the man. A conman cons his way through travel. Murderers are more likely to go brave the wilderness. Unless. No way. This is just precious. I stare a bit longer until I am completely convinced I am right, and then stand up. Mistress? My dearest vassal, you have yet things to learn. Follow and observe. Yes, mistress, I bow before your superior wisdom, he deadpans. How many vampires get sass from their vassals, I wonder? We make our way to the camp from the road. The dog is the first to hear and smell me. His furious barks alarm the assembly, and both men grab a musket. Dalton reaches the edge of the campfire's circle of light. The flames reflect on his deputy badge, making it glint. You again? Roars the priest with outrage. Dalton remains unfazed. HSSSSSSS. The sound is too low for human ears. The dog barks, whimpers, then falls silent. Good. I sidestep Dalton to get closer to the group. It is time for an exciting lesson. My dear Dalton, when following a prey, you must remember that. Who gave you leave to speak, wench? We are going to have a problem. I consider killing their dog as a warning when Dalton intervenes. I did. Now stay silent. The priest stands up with rage at his treatment and opens his mouth, but nothing comes out. The distinctive sound of a cocked pistol silences everyone. You would not dare firing on the... Yes. I very much would. Now shut up, you are interfering with the duties of a deputy marshal. Nicely done, Dalton, now I won't have to kill anyone. As I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted, you dare. Bang. The priest falls backward with a yelp and his family panics, for 1 second, until it becomes evident that Dalton fired a warning shot in the air. When everyone's attention has turned to him, my vassal calmly holsters his pistol only to take out another one from his other hip. His countenance is perfectly at ease. The next one is for your knee. You could hear a pin drop. Good vassal. Many imbeciles only see danger when looking down the muzzle of a gun. And so those that prey on others have found ways to make themselves appear harmless until it is too late. I walk around the camp and stop in front of the simpleton. However, most criminals are stupid, and the disguise is often flawed. For example, senile women do not smell of cigar and liquor. I snag the hat from the crown head to reveal a bald skull. The wig has remained stuck to the coif. You bitch! Screams Mr. Hill as he attempts to extract himself from the reclining chair with a face twisted by rage. An instant later, his hateful glare is buried under Dalton's leather-clad foot. Hill falls back down and screams. The simpleton screams, the couple screams, the priest's family screams. My poor ears. Darius Hill, you are under arrest for assault with a deadly weapon, battery, larceny. I watch Dalton work as he shackles the criminal. All this fresh blood dripping on the ground. I feel the thirst awakening. I have been feeding on chalices for the past 3 days, and it is time for Mr. Hill to contribute. What is the meaning of this? Yells the priest as he tries to regain some authority. You shared a campfire with a felon and a transvestite, that's what it means. I smile and prepare to leave until I notice that Dalton is staring at the men, considering. You know, when I asked you the first time, you said that God would reveal the soul of a sinner. And yet here he is, sharing a fire with you. Strange, is it not? What are you implying, you insolent scoundrel? Do you know who you're talking to? No, but you're going to tell me. Name, surname, and place of origin, please, replies Dalton. I'm the Reverend Luther Boone of the Baptist Church of the United States, with the grace of. Date of birth and place of origin. I beg your pardon. For the last time, you will give me your date of birth and place of origin, sir, or are you refusing to comply? This is an outrage. I have never been treated like this. I'll have you know. You harbored a fugitive, and now you're refusing to cooperate with a deputy marshal of the state of Georgia. You will answer my questions, or you will be detained. Is that clear? Is that clear? There is a moment of tension when I almost believe that the priest will lose his temper, until Dalton takes out another pair of manacles. The priest quickly looks around as if seeking support. However, the couple is looking at him warily and the simpleton is still sobbing on the ground. He swallows his pride and sits back down. What follows is a short interrogation during which Dalton asks a few pointed questions. The others do not realize it, but I see what he is doing. His tone and phrasing are not inquisitive, they are degrading. Interjections such as "Is that so?" and "Care to repeat that?" constantly destabilize his interlocutor, giving the vague feeling that Dalton does not believe a word he says. The treatment lasts until the red in the priest's face no longer comes from his anger but from his humiliation. When he's done, Dalton turns away and before leaving, delivers a parting shot. I will be verifying these claims, sir, and if they are not to my satisfaction you can expect another visit. And then we disappear into the night, captive in tow. The impression is only slightly ruined when the simpleton runs after us, bawling her eyes out. I think she likes you, mistress. Don't even start. Our carriage is riding back towards Coolidge, the city where the now slightly anemic Hill was last seen. I believe that he grabbed the simple woman there and used her as a cover. We will drop her off as soon as we locate her abode. Said simpleton can speak quite a bit when she is no longer so scared. I learned that she lives mostly alone in the shed and that she really likes rabbits. Tonight's sortie is getting stranger by the minute. Dalton. My vassal sighs heavily, not meeting my eyes. I am sorry, mistress. It won't happen again. Oh, no, far from me to rob you of your fun. It was a pleasant surprise, although, you understand my curiosity. I see something rare in my precious ally, embarrassment. It happened long ago. Then at least tell me what caused your ire. You're usually so stern. Dalton takes a moment to gather his thoughts, then he begins. There is a kind of person who enjoys being in power. They enjoy it so much, in fact, that they will try to make everyone around them less so that it remains. They beat their wife, they beat their children, they crush their spirits so that all there is around them is a bunch of broken cowards too afraid to stand up for themselves. Growth does not interest them, only control. Now some of those men, like this despicable cat from before, they found a religion. That religion tells them that they are the chosen of God and they know the one truth, and that places them at the top of the bloody world. How happy they are! Now when they beat their family it's to protect them from sin. And how do they know it's sin? Well, since they are the chosen of God, if they don't like it, then God must not like it either. And so it goes. An entire village of self-righteous feckless mongrels weeding out everyone who could cast a shade on their happy hegemony. It does not take a mastermind to understand where his resentment comes from. You did punish him beautifully. Oh, no, mistress. The punishment is only getting started. You see, I did it in front of his kids. Now they know their father is fallible. Just an angry little man, really. When they are of age, they will remember this, and that one could face him and win. The seeds of rebellion? Perhaps. Perhaps none of them will have the guts, or they could all be like him. It doesn't matter. I gave them something to consider. That's more than I got. With this last statement, Dalton grows unusually subdued. I decide to leave him to his musings. The rarity of his displays of emotion could be a cause for concern in others. It does not bother me. The unity brought by our bond cannot be faked, nor destroyed. I will not let my resentment endanger our cause, mistress. I know. I trust you, and I believe I understand now why you trusted me, that day in the Valiant's camp. Yes, he replies with a smile, I will take an honorable monster over a hypocritical human any day of the week. We share a knowing smile and fall into a comfortable silence as the carriage takes us back. Savannah, October 1805. The guard opens the door the moment he recognizes me. The nervous accountant who handled my money last time trots up and speaks with reverence. Welcome back, Lady Ariane. Master Isaac will be with you shortly. If you would take a seat. Would you like something to drive? I am fine, thank you, I tell the paling man. Yes, a poor choice of words. I would not take him up on his offer anyway, it would be quite rude towards Isaac. Not to mention that I like the sound of Lady Ariane. The bean counter scurries back to the illusory safety of his desk while I take some time to study the magical protections of the place. I now recognize the set of armor as an animated golem, currently unpowered. The book Love lent me mentioned that they were indefatigable and did not know pain. They are a good defense against a vampire, although their slow speed can be a liability. The easiest way to deal with them is to outmaneuver them. Barring that, they have a core that would need to be destroyed. The glyph on the ground is also interesting. It is a seal of Solomonic tradition, and although its full purpose escapes me, I believe it is related to the disruption of foreign magic. Studying the competition, Ariane. I stand up and curtsy before my host. My answer dies in my throat when I take in his presence. Something has changed. The cold aura that marks him as my kin has increased in power by a significant amount. Moreover, it seems to be in flux, growing as I look, and despite all this it is still as organized and disciplined as before. Well, Are congratulations in order? Indeed. Indeed, they are. Let us be on our way, and I shall regale you with the tales of my latest achievement. I refuse to take his offered arm, which he accepts gracefully. We exit the building and leave on foot away from the docks, towards the more affluent part of the city. Dalton follows us at a short distance, ever vigilant. Your power feels like that of a master. Yes, after our little outing I came home and immediately collapsed into a long slumber. I learned much from that night, much more than you think. The insights I gained were enough to tip me over the edge. You are looking at Clan Rosenthal's newest descendant. Congratulations once more. So what is the custom? Should I offer you a coming-of-age present? He shakes his hand dismissively. Normally there would be a ceremony and yes, gifts. Do not fret though, your contribution was already more than I could ever ask. And there is something else. Yes? Well, those gifts would usually be very precious, and as your financial advisor I strongly advise against any excessive spendings at the moment. Did you just call me poor, sir? Of course not. Of course not, I was merely looking out for your best interest. As is proper. Isaac's perfect poker face only betrays his inner smirk. If he were honest, he would have apologized profusely. Well, excuse me. You are forgiven. I hiss playfully. Loth, Sinead and now Isaac, it appears that loners end up being comfortable in my presence. How else to explain the ocean of sass I must deal with? Even Dalton teases me on occasion. His deadpan deliveries can be scathing when something manages to stir his emotions. Perhaps I am a refreshing breeze for them, someone who they know will not commit a betrayal. I suspect Master's reputation could get him some allies, or even friends, if he were not such a... Better not go there. We are almost there. As promised, the location is secured. You have my word. Thank you, Isaac. I knew I could count on you. Indeed. Indeed, say Ariane, what you have is extraordinary. I am happy for you. Cherish the memories you make tonight. I will. Thank you. Enough of this, and you go. I enter alone the lobby of a small hotel. Signs of age and constant use mark the desk and furniture. Instead of being decrepit, warm colors and the smell of soap and flowers give the room a homey feeling. The place is empty but for a heartbeat coming from the dining room. I step in silently. If my own heart were still in motion, it would be fluttering right now. He is sitting at a table, his back to me. His fingers tap a nervous dance on the scratched wood as he tries in vain to focus on the shipping manifest. I sneak up on him with childish giddiness. Oh, but I haven't felt this human in months. I place my hands on his eyes, covering them. Devine qui est. Ma petite fille. He roars with pleasure. Let me take a good look at you. He jumps to his feet and catches me under the armpits. He lifts me in the air like I am made of straw and turns me around like a weird animal. I realize with pleasure that he regained his normal strength, though his hair has more gray in it than I remember. I try not to let it get to me. After a few seconds, he returns his verdict. You've gained weight. Lies. Calumnies. I sputter. Ha ha ha, fine. Fine. Come on, sit down here and tell your old man everything. I give him a light recounting of the events after I left the house. As expected, I am interrupted almost immediately. Those damn fanatics hiring Image? Typical hypocrites. Fucking pricks, I hope you gave them hell. I did. Also, language. Give me a break, daughter. Your aunt isn't here. So I can start swearing too? Do you want to? That's not the point. Do as I say, not as I do, such is the privilege of every parent. I hiss in jest. When I realize what I have done, I freeze. I did not intend to show this side of me, however, my expectations are dashed. Instead of being alarmed at the inhuman noise, Papa steps closer. Can't I see them? I hesitate. It's fine if you don't want to, Ariane. I appreciate that it can be difficult. No, it's fine. Papa takes my hand in his and rubs the talon, careful not to cut himself on the edge. At the same time I open my mouth and allow my fangs to show. He lowers his head to inspect them. HRM. We both jump in surprise when we realize Isaac is in the room. Jesus man, don't you scare me like that. My apologies, Mr. Raynaud. I merely wanted to tell you that everything is in order. You will find the signed contract in your quarters. And with this, I bid you a good night. He bows with perfect professionalism. I'm never going to live this down, am I? We stare in silence as he leaves. You entered a contract with the Rosenthal. Yes, they were looking for a trustworthy contact with significant storage capabilities. Our location allows them to bypass other clans' areas of influence. That is good. Wait, hold on, wait, how do you know all of this? Papa? I'll tell you if you tell me why Lucien asks me about you when his parents are not around. Wellll. My father crossed his arms and raises a brow, which means I'm not getting out of this one. When I came looking for you, I passed by the manor first. Roger came out and Lucien trailed him. They saw you. Roger never said. I asked him never to mention me. I see. As for why I know so much, well, your letters came from a vampire and I managed to get in touch with her. What? She never said so. I asked her to keep it secret. I did not want you to worry. Father, this world is dangerous. And closing my eyes to it won't save me, not since they took you. In any case, Achille has expanded the business and a lot of transactions we thought strange make sense now that we can account for hidden groups of interest. Also, Achille does not know it yet, but I am planning to leave you your rightful share of inheritance. Papa. Tut-tut, I fully expect you to look after your nieces and nephews, and their children after that. I want you to be around for a long time and I am charging you with protecting the family in the future. Alright, I promise. Speaking of which, Achilles' wife Nicole is expecting their second child. And so is Constanza. The discussion continues on my family until I resume my tale. Eventually, I mentioned Dalton. We mostly hunt bounties together. Is that what kids call it these days? Papa? Ha ha ha, joking. Well, remember to tell me in advance for the nuptials. I have to make arrangements. Even if I did, we could not find a priest. Who cares about that? I could do a pagan marriage. With that Nashobalat attending us. Pass. Alright. After that, I have Dalton himself join us. They take the measure of each other and immediately hit it off. We finish the night on a pleasant note, and with plans for the future. I have not felt closer to human Ariane in a long time. I wonder if it will be a weakness, and I realize that I do not mind. If I manage not to get killed, I will be forced to see all my family die of old age. Perhaps their children too. I need to enjoy the present moment while I can, and safeguard those memories. It feels important. I also realize that I am in a position to look after Achilles' descendants. I am too weak to make a difference now, and the descendants in question are mostly yet to come. This is still something to consider in the future. This is all making me out of sorts. I know what I need, a good hunt. Tope continued. Thanks for listening.